I am a landscape designer and I educate my clients on what perfectionism pressure is and how to identify it so that they can respond to it appropriately as they're creating the landscape of their dreams. This might sound obvious, but this actually has a huge effect on how people approach their landscaping projects, how the design ends up looking, and learning how to identify it and what to do about it in certain contexts can be really interesting. Perfectionism pressure in landscaping is easy. The basic definition is right there in the name. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's that pressure that you feel for your landscape to be or look amazing. What's interesting is that this pressure can come from society, it can come from neighbors, family, friends, it can even come just right from yourself. It can be as simple as this pressure you put on yourself to keep that gravel and that mulch from mixing, to keep the pathways super neat. It can also be backed by some really good values like having the best possible wildlife habitat, doing everything right, not having too many weeds, maybe growing as much food as possible. But the worst kind of perfectionism pressure in landscaping is the kind that comes directly or sometimes indirectly from others, demanding a certain level of neatness or a certain style of landscaping that's very similar to everyone else's. And I say that it's the worst because it does tend to come from a rather superficial or a vain place, and there's a lack of quality values backing up many of the common landscaping practices. A lot of landscaping practices are harmful if you were to add up, the good parts, the bad parts. A lot of our landscaping practices that are common, I'm here in the United States, they're adding up to have a pretty harmful impact. And what's interesting is that this pressure exists for you to continue to uphold these practices, to continue to have the same kind of landscape. That's why I say it's the worst. But of course, it's okay if you like a neat landscape. It's okay if you want to focus on beauty. Beauty is not vanity. That's not being superficial. You can have a neat landscape without it being a harmful landscape. There's tons of beneficial landscaping practices. But you can identify and learn from perfectionism pressure a few different times. One really common example is when you are designing or planning something for your front yard that's totally different than what you authentically otherwise would design. You can identify it when you are worrying about aesthetics for others besides you or those who are going to be spending time in the space. You can identify it when you're planning something that's no longer aligned with your values, your principles, maybe just good ethical landscaping practices. You can also identify it when the time that you're spending outside just starts to feel like a never-ending chore list, when you're trying to keep up with maintenance and keep everything looking neat enough, especially to please others, sometimes yourself. Some opposites of perfectionism pressure can be authenticity, creativity, experimentation, and just embracing a little bit of mess when it's valuable, where it's valuable. And it can be prioritizing values and goals that are important to you and to others who share the space. And these can be anything. It could be wildlife gardening, it could be growing food, or it could just be as simple as creating a space where your grandkids can play in the dirt. And it's all about balance. Sometimes it is a good idea to do something different in your front yard than you would in your backyard, to do something in your front yard that's going to fit in with, what your neighbors are doing. That can be a good thing. But we just want to notice when we're doing something that we wouldn't otherwise authentically do, just so we can be aware of it and we can think carefully about when we want to change our plans, when we should change our plans, and when we don't want to. Perfectionism pressure is a little bit different for the front yard versus the backyard. Let's talk specifically about front yard landscape design, things to consider. You definitely want to be courteous. You don't want to create a mess for anyone else. You definitely do have a responsibility to manage or remove any truly invasive or aggressive weed species in your space. Make sure they don't spread. Not all weeds are invasive or aggressive. You can reach out to your local noxious weed organizations, resources to learn a little bit more about what might be in your area and then what to do about it. Do not compromise your values. Come up with ways to stay true to the landscaping practices and principles that are ethical and important to you while balancing any specific needs of your community. Do read any HOA, homeowners association, or neighborhood association rules and regulations before you make any changes, just as a starting point. If you live somewhere else in the world, these organizations might have a different name, but if there's any local community regulations about what you can or can't do in your yard, front yard, backyard, be sure to start there. Homeowners associations and similar organizations can be wonderful. They're not always bad, but they're definitely not always good either. And get involved if you're able. You can help work to make any needed or necessary changes to rules, regulations to make things more ethical, more inclusive. And if you would like to learn more about National Wildlife Federation's Guide to Wildlife-Friendly Property Maintenance Ordinances, this is a great resource. I will link to that in the description below. Absolute party. Be sure to check that out. Unless you're required, do not waste any of your time on high maintenance landscaping practices that you wouldn't otherwise choose to indulge in just because it's the status quo or it's common in your neighborhood. And an example of this, a really common example, is planting something that needs to be constantly trimmed or pruned just to maintain a certain look. Or perhaps you could consider lawn-free landscaping practices. There are many design possibilities that are absolutely stunning. And do consider including some clean edges or neat borders when possible, because borders like this make it clear that your ideas are intentional and they increase the perception of neatness with minimal effort. They come in many forms. Do consider using a dark colored mulch. This mulch is popular in many climates, and it again can just increase the neatness and the intentionality in a landscape with pretty minimal effort. And this works in many landscaping styles. So you can do something that's authentic to you, maybe include a very neat border, some neat edges, as well as some dark colored mulch, and it'll just increase how likely it is to be accepted by maybe your more picky neighbors. And definitely do use neighbors' yards as inspiration. Drive around, see what plants are doing well, learn from that, find what you like, and do something that's similar that's already been done, and just add your own twist to it if you'd like. And if you do decide to push the boundaries, do so with a purpose, as much as you're comfortable with, as long as you're safe doing this. Rebel in a way that makes the world a better place, and you can start small. Just plant a native wildflower, plant something that produces food in your front yard. These little changes are important. Pushing these boundaries are important because these things are making the world a better place. And as more people start to make these slight changes, they catch on, it spreads. It is a good thing to do. It really does make a difference. Do get to know your neighbors whenever possible, whenever you can. And definitely do stand up for neighbors who are perhaps being harassed by other neighbors for doing something different. And do take time to compliment creative neighbors when you see someone doing something beneficial in their yards. Make a point to tell them, write a note, wait till you see them next and tell them that what they're doing is great, that you noticed. This can really make someone's day. If you would like step-by-step guidance through the process of creating your own landscape design, check out my online course, Design Your Own Landscape Layout, where I help you create your own hand-drawn landscape design layout plan. And it's hand-drawn, but you don't need any fancy artistic skills to do it. If you could draw lines and circles, you can do this. So I guide you through the process of learning about your space, finding inspiration and breaking that inspiration down into pieces that you can use to create your dream design, how to lay everything out in a way that's functional and practical, how to test your ideas out, and how to make a planting plan as well. You do not need any previous gardening experience. I will guide you through the process, and yeah, if you're interested, if you want to learn more, join the fun. Check out the link in the description below. It's gardenprojectacademy.com/DIY design. gardenprojectacademy.com/DIY design. And the backyard is a space where you should be safer, more comfortable to lean into your values, to have a little bit more fun, to experiment. I don't believe that a backyard should be a constant maintenance treadmill, this constant to-do list. I don't think that a backyard needs to look like the perfect cover of a perfect gardening magazine to be beautiful. I don't believe that a yard should be a symbol of your financial status. It should not be evidence that you have everything in your life together. They should be outdoor living spaces, play spaces. It's an opportunity to make the world a better place, bring you joy, all the happy things. The point I'm trying to make is that this perfectionism pressure creates this opportunity for us to lean into the things that are most important. Again, I think the main thing is you have a responsibility to manage any truly invasive, aggressive weed species, noxious weed species. But besides that, a little bit of mess can be a good thing. And of course, if you like neat looking landscapes, that's great. There are tons of wonderful, beneficial low maintenance landscaping practices that can help you maintain a neat landscape. In fact, you might be interested in some of my other videos on low maintenance landscaping practices. I'll make sure they pop up at the end of this video. It really is okay if it's a little bit overgrown, or if the lawn isn't always green, or if the pathways aren't perfectly edged. It really can be okay. And the fact that we put this pressure on ourselves or on others, I think it's a little bit silly. I hope that this video has helped you. I hope that some of the additional resources linked in the description below help you. Thanks for watching, and happy gardening.